What's up, YouTube? I'm Brett from Rants. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. Alright, so this is our Snake Eyes G.I. Joe origin story or some crap like that. It really doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, anyone's going to just know it as the Snake Eyes movie. I guess you could say it's Snake Eyes movie, but now that I think about it, it didn't really feel much like a Snake Eyes movie. It felt let me just put it this way. You have Snake Eyes where he's talking, one, and another, he shows his face all but, 5 seconds at the very end. So, yeah, it doesn't really feel like Snake Eyes. I kept thinking during this movie, okay, he can talk, get it, they want to show his face. Don't really get that, but hey, you know what? We'll find out why he doesn't say anything from that point on. No, we don't. No, we don't. Spoiler alert here, guys. We don't find out anything. We don't find out anything. We find out where he gets his name, which is the dumbest way possible to get his name, because his father's killer used dice, and is told his father, well, if you roll a Snake Eyes, then I'm going to kill you. If you don't, then I'm not going to kill you. And of course, he rolls the Snake Eyes, and then his father dies. So he's Snake Eyes now, for whatever reason that is. Like, that just seems like the dumbest way to get a name. And I want to just talk about the beginning of this film, because so often now it seems like, and you especially see it with the new Wonder Woman film, where you have like, it almost kind of feels like two beginnings. You have, using Wonder Woman as example, you have the mall scene where she's fighting the bad guys or the robbers, and then you have the scene where it's kind of like Amazon Olympics and she cheats and gets in trouble for it. It's a kid. You have that scene. One of those two scenes would have worked. Sadly, they decided to include both. The same kind of goes with Snake Eyes. We get the 15 minutes of him and his father. His father's got a secret that he's actually, a G.I. Joe agent and being hunted by Cobra. And we get that scene. We find out, his father dies, blah, 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 all that other kind of stuff. Then we get him cage fighting. And guy approaches him and says, hey, I can find your father's killer or whatever if you help me out. And that would be all well and good, except I kind of felt like the scene with his father was completely and totally meaningless, because that one phrase, I can find your father's killer, would have been enough to intrigue us to be like, oh, his father died. Maybe that's why he acts like a complete and total douchebag. Could be. But no, that's not where they went with this. Really, to be honest with you, it played almost zero role throughout this movie. And you can say, oh yeah, it was all about, his finding his father's killer that led him to all the bad choices he made throughout this movie, and I totally get that. But at the same time, it meant nothing, because the villain that killed his father meant nothing in this movie. He was completely useless. He showed up for like a whole, 2 minutes after that fact. Like, he was a nobody, basically. You could say, well, I guess he was a Cobra agent or whatever kind of thing, but no, it was just kind of a guy that wanted to survive. And like he said, when Cobra tells you to kill somebody, you kill somebody. That's not what I wanted in a movie, especially an origin story about Snake Eyes. I want to find, first, I want a reason for that name that's better than what we got out of it. I also want the villain that basically caused him to be who he was and make the choices that he made to be a more prominent villain. In fact, he wasn't. He wasn't even hardly in the movie. That was a complete and total waste when it comes to this movie. Is they should have made it somebody more prominent. Somebody more prominent that at least showed up. Take, I don't know, Baroness, for example. Baroness would have been a really good. I thought she was really great. Ursula Corbero, I think was her name. She did really well in this as playing Baroness. She would have been a great person to have had to kill Snake Eyes' father. That would have been more compelling because she was actually in it. And at a time, he actually had to work with her. But yeah, I mean, there were so many things wrong with this movie. I don't even know where to even begin. Of course, I'll give details here and there, but at the end of the day, it was just poor story from beginning to end. It just, none of the characters were really that compelling. Maybe Storm Shadow was interesting to a certain extent. Kind of, I don't know, felt a little bit too trusting to a certain extent. But still, I could live with Andrew Koji's portrayal of Storm Shadow. But Henry Golding as Snake Eyes, I just could not see Snake Eyes with him throughout this. I just couldn't. I thought he did great acting. It was nothing against him personally or against his performance. It was a terrible story. It was a terrible story. No one, I don't think, could have really saved it. I mean, look, you just cannot have you could have an origin story where Snake Eyes is the villain and then turns good guy. You could have a redemption arc about that. You didn't get a redemption arc in this film. If you're looking for a redemption arc, anytime that you're watching this, you're not going to get this. No redemption whatsoever. He just he leads the bad guy to this ultimate weapon that goes and incinerates the very people that took him in, that were trusting him, that were going to let him be a part of their clan. He does this to find a guy that he doesn't even kill to begin with in the first place. So, I mean, at the end of the day, all those deaths that are on his hands, of the people that trusted him and cared for him, literally meant nothing. Literally meant nothing simply because it wasn't a means to an end of anything. He gets to it's just like he gets to the end of it. He finds he's given the killer of his father, and he's like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna let this guy just escape. That actually made no sense to a certain extent. This guy's a member of Cobra, and you just completely and totally let him go. Yeah, that last I checked, Cobra was a terrorist organization. So, like, anybody that guy goes and kills from this point on, like, you had the chance to take him out or at least arrest him, and you didn't. You didn't do anything. In fact, to go to even go further, the idea that the Snake Eyes that, of course, many of us grew up watching as kids, was actually willing to work with Cobra, a terrorist organization. He knows that the Baroness is responsible for blowing up a plane full of innocent people. And instead of being like, oh no, I'm not working with her, I don't want no part of this, he's like, basically like, oh, I don't like that you did that, but you know what? Means to an end. That was so lame in so many different ways. There is no redemption for him at this point, from that point on. Let's just put it that way. And then it just gets worse. He acts like he just doesn't care. It's just, there's no emotion. There's no reason for him changing one way or the other. It just feels like he goes wherever the tide goes. That's the way he he feels in this movie. Absolutely hated Snake Eyes in this movie. Like I just felt like the worst rendition of this character by far, by far. Now, Storm Shadow, interesting character. I felt like was maybe a little too trusting, but to be honest with you, Storm Shadow was actually uh, kind of almost a, I won't go so far as say the hero, but definitely by far, by a large gap, was the one who had the moral compass, which is just amazing to think about. Um, and then basically Snake Eyes just screws him over, leads him basically into Cobra's hands, which kind of felt strange too because Storm Shadow, even though he got screwed over by Snake Eyes and his clan, basically, still didn't feel right that he would just go and be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to turn evil now. I'm going to join a terrorist organization." That felt so wrong in so many different ways. Um, it just it was just a bad movie. I mean, I can't stretch. I don't want. I know that's terrible to even say that in a review. That it's just a terrible movie. It just was. I mean, the plots were really meaningless and pointless in a lot of ways. The characters caring for one another did not really gel too well. I'm not saying anybody did a really bad acting job. I'm just saying that they didn't fit well together. That when, you know, supposedly Snake Eyes finds, you know, this woman that kind of cares for him a little bit, that's a part of the clan. Um, it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel right. She just doesn't trust him, and then all of a sudden, he's like, "Hey, I didn't have a family. You didn't have a family. Let's be friends." It was like one of those kind of moments, and it was so freaking lame. Like I just can't believe that they would just leave it at that. And then after that point, she's like, "Okay, let's just be friends. I'm gonna go. I don't know, attack a giant snake for you and basically give up the family that I have for you, even though I know you're probably a dirtbag deep down." Like, it just, I don't know. So many, like I said, so many things were wrong with all of it that I can't, I feel like you would need like 2 hours to just completely and totally break it down. Um, I was kind of shocked that Scarlett didn't play much of a role in this either. We didn't get very much G.I. Joe, hardly at all. And I get it, it's an origin story and all that, but we got, I would say, a fair amount of Cobra, you know, with the Baroness, enough to make me satisfied with it. So I was kind of shocked you didn't see, like, you know, a little bit more of the Joes in this one. Um, but you know what? I could live with that. I know it's all supposed to be about Snake Eyes. I don't feel like this was a very good origin story. I don't feel like this was a story that really needed to be told. This definitely wasn't a rendition of this character that needed to be out there at all. I feel like now that we've got his origin story, now they need to just go April Fools. This is actually his origin story. That would be that would be suitable. I would actually be really happy about that. I don't think that's going to happen, and that's why I'm not really that much more excited about any future GI Joe movies. Because if this is the direction that's going to take, then no, I'm not interested in it. I also want to state this: this felt like a very generic um, Marvel movie. It was all about action and no heart to it. It was almost kind of like Black Widow all over again. That's really the way it felt. It felt like the action was decent. The action is what you kind of expect from an action flick in the in 2021, like you expect, that kind of stuff. But I just kind of feel like um, at this point, if you don't give it like some reason behind it and really have like heart when it comes to these characters. You can have all the action in the world, and at that moment, people might be truly excited. They might be like, "Yeah, that was a good movie," but as soon as they leave the theaters, they're not gonna like that. They're gonna be like, "Oh wow, that was actually kind of a generic plot. That was kind of I don't know. The fight scenes were cool, but there was really no likable character in this." I felt like that was just the thing that damned this movie just from the very beginning. And it just never got better. The last point I will make on this, and it kind of pissed me off. This is another spoiler. Um, Storm Shadow loses his inheritance basically as the head of the clan because he tries to kill the man that tried to murder his entire family and was attempting to do so at that very moment with a stone that he wasn't supposed to use. Snake Eyes gives that stone to the villain that led to all the murders. Snake Eyes gets a really cool suit by them, and I guess forgiven for some weird reason. And Storm Shadow, who was only trying to protect his family, gets banished, basically. Or not, I won't say banished, but he loses his inheritance, therefore just making him banished. It felt, it felt like taking away Storm Shadow's birthright over that was ridiculous, and giving Snake Eyes a freaking cool suit was even worse. Like, they just added injury to insult. You know what? If they do make a Snake Eyes 2, I hope Storm Shadow kills him. I feel like at the end of the day, after this movie, Storm Shadow has every right to kill him. Uh, that's just the way I look at it. Like, if there was a good guy in this, it's Storm Shadow. If there was a true villain, I would put Snake Eyes up there at the top of it, with Baroness maybe being, second, or Kenji or whatever that other guy's name was, being like tied for second. It was just a bad film. Would not recommend it. I would give it like, oh man, this is how much I actually hated it. I would give it probably about a 3 out of 10. There was a lot of good action scenes, but again, we see these kind of similar action scenes all the time now, so it doesn't really make them quite as relevant or enticing. But besides all of that, in the cool suit at the end, there's no reason to watch this movie. It's probably one. I would go so far as say this is probably one of the worst origin stories I've ever witnessed, and that's saying something because we actually got to see Black Widow's origin story, and that was the only good part of that movie was her origin story. And then after that, it was like, total crap. But at least her origin story was interesting. Where this was just, it started off on the completely wrong track. I don't see how going forward with this character, I'm going to like him or get to like him or believe that he's a hero in any form or fashion when he really didn't make amends for all the tragic things that he did throughout this movie. They were like, oh, well, you're a hero now. Well, great, I guess. But anyways, guys, let me know what y'all think. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Y'all take care.